Happy politics and welcome to your favorite BC politics podcast. At least that's what you tell me in the emails you send me. This is BC Poly Hot Stove. My name is Maclean K. I'm the editor-in-chief of the Orca, and I'm joined, as always, in a socially distant manner by...
It's Jordan Bateman, Vice President Communications, Independent Contractors Businesses Association, the mighty ICBA. Maclean, it's very exciting for me because later today, I'm going to go overseas.
Overseas?
To Victoria.
Somewhere like... Oh, okay, well, fair enough. You're rejoining civilization.
I'm coming to what Kristen Clark affectionately refers to as the cesspool, and I am looking forward to my 25-hour visit to the city of Victoria.
And seeing if there are any real people here.
Exactly. I'm sure there might be one or two. If you're a real person in Victoria and you see me, speak loudly and wave your hands so I'm not alarmed or anything. And if I've learned anything from listening to Adam Sterling on radio and Twitter, I will be very careful where I walk in Victoria, and I will walk as large as possible in order to protect myself.
Just imagine you're a bear. And technically, I'm in Saanich, so I got him to get coffee.
Frank Leonard made sure that place was safe. Frank Leonard stitched in the DNA that would be a safe place, so you're fine.
I almost got a spit take, which might have made this the best. And we already know what's going to be on No Context BC Gov this week. Yes. Jordan, it's not a... The news is dominated. You mentioned overseas. The news is being dominated by what's going on in Ukraine, and there's been not as much happening at home, but there is a BC connection in that question period yesterday was dominated by the issue of divestment and whether BC can or should remove its very small share of stocks. I read somewhere it's been like 0.2% that are tied up in Russian firms. Now there BC liquor stores have already removed Russian products from their shelves.
Thanks to Kevin Falcon shaming John Horgan into doing it.
Which interestingly went from, in a matter of hours, I'm not taking any lessons from them on these things to just doing it. Which politics is a wonderful thing. And the other thing was Shaw and TELUS have both removed Russia Today from their TV platforms. I'll be honest, I didn't know. It turns out that I actually had Russia Today. I checked after. I had no idea.
You should demand a refund.
That is not a call I want to make because they record those. But the next thing that could conceivably happen is BC's pension funds divesting themselves of, again, a small percentage of Russian stocks. News this morning is that Alberta's equivalent has chosen to do so. It's not as simple as, the premier or the government simply saying, do it, and lo, it happens. It's an independent organization. But there's a lot of sentiment out there if this is one of the levers we can pull, why not pull it? What do you think, Jordan?
Well, first, it's an independent organization that exists to do one thing: generate as much money as possible to fund the public sector pension plan. And that is their mandate. I'm not sure. I'm sure they have other things listed as the things they're supposed to be doing, but that is why they exist: make as much money as possible for the public sector plan. It's about $430 million in Russian companies and in stock, which is a lot of money, obviously. But again, it tells you how big the pension plan is when it's like less than 1% of the overall scheme. Obviously, it's awful what's happening in Ukraine. Putin is a monster, a madman, and will deserve everything that hopefully bad is coming for him. At the same time, I have a real problem with politicians dictating where an independent agency invests money. And here's why. It's fine in this case. I think we'd all agree. Absolutely. Most of us would agree. Absolutely. Yeah. The more financial damage we can inflict on Russia, the better. Absolutely. We all get that. But what happens if there's the next thing that John Horgan says is, well, the companies that make money off oil and gas, they should be punished too. Or, what if it's, the federal Green Party has just shown that there is still a large anti-Semitic problem in this country. What if it's about divesting from assets in and around Israel? You go on these it becomes a very slippery slope. So I know as hard as it is to believe, I kind of agree with Horgan here that I don't the premier shouldn't be the one saying we're getting rid of this. It should be the actual chair of the divestment, or the chair of the fund that manages it. Now, amazingly to me, I'm sure this is still the case. Back when I was a CTF guy, I was intimately aware of all the different wage and benefit packages for executives. That person is the highest paid government employee in British Columbia, or at least was. I believe 3 million plus a year. By the way, if you go to the United States, the highest paid public employee is usually the head of the state football team, the head coach. So it does show you where, yeah, our priorities are a little different, right? Like ours, we pay the guy who's managing pension funds. Down there, they're paying the head of Ohio State, the Ohio State University.
Go Buckeyes.
Yes, there you go. So, but it's such a slippery slope, right? Like I'd rather have them make this very rational, important decision themselves than have it. Like it's one thing for the three party leaders maybe to get up and make obviously make condemning statements about what's going on, what Russia is doing, and signal that we should take every action possible in order to economically punish them. That should be enough for this person to kind of twig on, like, and look, every pension plan in the world is dealing with this right now. They're all looking to divest. This $400 million is now worth pennies on the ruble, whatever. Yeah. Like it's not much. We picked a wrong year to invest in rubles. So, but boy, like that is it's a slippery slope, and you open that door, and who knows what happened.
No, I think, yeah, what you're saying, it makes sense to me. It's important that people understand that this is not like the vodka on the liquor store shelves is actually a really good counterexample, because that is directly controlled by government. That was something that a minister could, sign an order and it just happens. This is different, and it's good that it's different, because you're right. You don't want politics entering into these things. You're quite right to point out that a state of more or less war might be different enough to warrant this, but what happens next? I mean, there is a vocal BDS movement here in Canada with respect to Israel. Your points about oil and gas, I think, are valid, and it's not what people want to hear right now. But I mean, to quote John Horgan in question period yesterday, "You and he are of two minds, and that'll frighten both of your families," or of one mind rather. And yes, it still makes sense. But yeah, I mean, it's his caution, I think, is correct, and I think you're right in that it may sound easy, and it's not to say that it can't happen. It just, this decision has to be arrived at independently by the pension fund manager.
Yeah, look, 100%, they're all doing their jobs properly. Opposition leader should absolutely bring these ideas up and bring them forward and put pressure on. Science personnel, same thing. Absolutely, Falcon personnel, they are doing their jobs, presenting every idea possible, holding the government to account. No doubt about it. But Horgan's also doing his job, which is, like right now online, you see a lot of false equivalencies happening. War in Ukraine, war on drugs, war on climate change, war. And when you start thinking in those terms, it does open the door. And I always go back to what you say about, like, it's great to do these things now, but you got to think about to yourself, would you be comfortable if it was Stephen Harper in charge making that decision, or if it was Andrew Weaver, or, like, that's where really the public policy is pushed to the limit.
Oh, did we lose you there?
No, I'm there. I'm here.
You just paused after realizing you agreed with John Horgan and me in the same thought, and it was just too much for you.
It was a meaningful pause, and that's, we need more unity in the world today, not less. So there you go.
I couldn't agree more. On to more local, and I'm going to use the word happier, because we're not talking about war. Mm-hmm. We kind of danced around this last week because we both knew something. We weren't sure we were allowed to know it, or at least allowed to talk about it. Katie Merrifield, whom, if you watch the show, will be well familiar with. Katie is, well, she's a friend of both of ours, but more to the point, Katie is one of the fast rising young stars in Canadian politics across the board. She successfully stick-handled Andrew Wilkinson's successful and winning leadership campaign. She's served in two different premier's offices, Christy Clark and Jason Kenney in Alberta. And now she is running the BC branch of Pierre Poilievre's favored conservative leadership campaign. This is, I mean, if you're a political nerd who likes to, loves to catch up on the Strategist podcast, that kind of thing, this is the kind of thing you should keep an eye on, because Katie's instincts are impeccable. Not only is she smart and a little terrifying, that's for you, Katie, but her instincts are pretty close to perfect at this point. And so if she's signing on with Pierre Poilievre, not only is she going to do a great job, it's probably a pretty good sign that he's got an impressive team put together, and we're probably looking at the next leader of the opposition.
Yeah, I've been really impressed with Poilievre's work across the country. British Columbia is always a little bit weird in these CPC nominations because we're not Ontario, Quebec size wise. And generally our politicians come from Ontario or Quebec, so it's hard to introduce them to the BC market. But Katie's a great hire, like smart. The first woman to lead a successful leadership campaign, edging out Jillian Oliver, your other co-host on Capital Direct. So the great thing too about Katie is that she is connected to a lot of the CPC folks in BC, but she has not been involved in some very difficult and messy fights within the CPC over recent years. Remember, this is a party that's gone through a number of leadership races now. There was a Scheer race and the O'Toole race, and those divide people. And there's little offenses that kind of mount up, and little things that go on in between within the tent. And Katie isn't involved in any of those, right? Like she comes in, a well-respected conservative, worked in Jason Kenney's government, worked in Christy Clark's government.
In senior roles.
And she doesn't have that kind of, oh, well, you never returned my, call this, or you promised X, Y, Z in the Scheer race and didn't deliver. She doesn't have any of that. So that is a very smart move by Poilievre, because immediately you're not picking a particular faction within the CPC. And, Katie, I think, is acutely aware of the work that needs to happen behind the scenes to kind of reunite that party in BC. And she's gone to work on it. So, I'm amazed at how many people I've talked to this week have been like, yeah, Katie called me about, Katie called me. Oh, I talked to Katie. And so she's clearly working the phones and working hard. And that shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone.
No, indeed. And I almost did Katie an injustice calling her a rising star. It's probably not even true. At this point, she's just, in the firmament.
Nice.
Yeah, there you go. But it's true. You run a successful leadership campaign. You work in senior roles in two premiers' offices, and now you probably have a chance to look. Pierre Poilievre is a prohibitive favorite, I think, right now, right? I mean, you know better than I. And if she plays a senior role in his campaign, then she's got if it's what she wants, a chance to have a senior job in Ottawa as well. It's hard not to be impressed.
Yeah, you look at who's coming out of the woodwork to run against Pierre. Jean. Is anyone excited by that? The fresh face Charest, who we've known since the 80s. Like, no, thank you. Tasha Carradine, who, like me, worked at the Canadian Taxpayers Federation before I worked there. Great among the talking heads in the Toronto, Ottawa media bubble, but I'm not sure, grandma in Salmon Arm knows who Tasha Carradine is. Now, maybe very impressed. It doesn't sound like Leslyn Lewis is going to go. I think she's still thinking about it, but it seems like her closest supporters like, maybe sit this one out and continue to build up your credentials for the next one. I actually think that would be wise. I think that Leslyn Lewis is at that point in her electoral cycle where everyone now is just starting to see, all people can see are the flaws right now, because she's in the House and she's in their face every day and all that. But she'll get through that and learn the ropes and 4 8 years from now be a very incredibly strong candidate. So yeah, it's the path is there for Pierre. Like, I mean, he's such a prohibitive favorite. I don't even know why these other folks are mounting a challenge, to be honest. Like, maybe it's, the general consensus was he should have run last time and he would have won last time. Nothing that has happened since then has done anything except make people within the party want him more. So maybe you just let him go.
I mean, you'll have a better perspective on this than me, but my sense is that, I mean, the natural comparison, just because we just went through this in BC, is to the leadership campaign that Kevin Falcon just won. And Kevin Falcon was also a favorite from day one. But to me, it looks like Poilievre is an even more prohibitive favorite. I mean, you'll correct me if I'm wrong, but there doesn't seem to be, an Ellis Ross or a Michael Lee, someone who, when they declared, is like, okay, well, they could make some noise and could conceivably win. that doesn't seem to be the case with what's happening. I was going to say in Ottawa, but with the federal Conservatives.
Yeah, Poilievre enjoys very popular support among current members and has the ability to sign up new ones. So, you kind of marry those two things. That's hard to overcome. Um, in the BC Liberal race, a bunch of those folks have been signed up by the Lee campaign 4 years ago. So there was a sense that, maybe Lee had an inside track with them. Didn't show up in the numbers, but okay. It was a theory. Ellis Ross had that straight talk John McCain thing going, and it really resonated in parts of the province. In fact, I think I'm having lunch with Ellis Ross tomorrow. So there you go.
Well, there you go. You better say nice things.
Scoop. There you are.
I mean, you could say this about. Here's your nice thing to say about Ellis Ross. I think of all the people who ran and did not win, Ellis Ross is probably the one who can say that he most increased his profile in the general public in that campaign.
100%. Yeah, and if the BC Liberals form government next time, he'll have a very senior portfolio. He'll be important in that government, and he'll be an important ambassador going forward. Now, one of the things I'm curious with Ellis, and I'm going to pick his brain a bit about, is electoral boundary redistribution. Boy, are we ever hitting the nerdy topics here on BC HOTSTOVE now.
You're going to be begging for the sports section. Begging.
Exactly. Like, we are in it now, folks. But I'm curious about that because I'm as a suburban British Columbian, I'm genuinely torn on this, right? I understand the geographical challenges of the North. I understand that when you are standing in Prince Rupert, you're actually closer to Victoria than you are to Fort St. John. So the idea that you're going to take that top half of the province geographically, essentially, and I checked on Google Maps yesterday, so I know,
like, wow.
and carve that into one riding is unbelievably difficult to represent. Impossible. It's going to be impossible for one person to represent and be in Victoria, et cetera, et cetera. At the same time, you're like, well, ridings of 17,000 people, your vote is 4 times more powerful than someone living in a riding of 75,000 people. And there's like a democratic issue there, right? So, I think we're all kind of wrestling with it. I would even suggest that even the NDP, who would benefit from, scrapping a bunch of these rural ridings, I think they're even wrestling with it. Like, it's a tough one. So I'm curious what the Boundaries Commission does. I think the geographical challenge is enough that you have to somehow protect those rural ridings. But then I don't want to have to add 15 MLA seats to an already crowded legislature just to have more politicians. Like, it's a tough one.
Yeah.
So Ellis Ross, if you're watching this, prepare for tomorrow. I have questions. Help me.
I hope you report back on that, because you're right. That's a dilemma. Because the population challenges are real. The people who are moving to British Columbia, the lower mainland and Vancouver Island too, is growing, and the north is stagnant at best. But the size, you can't drive to. If you can't reasonably drive to go see your MLA for a morning appointment, then I would suggest that is not real representation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think you're right. So, look, there's going to be some give and take in this. The NDP appointed the commission. Who knows? We've all heard the stories of Gracie's finger and things like that. And the Americans have made gerrymandering an art form. We'll see. So I forgot how we got on this. We were talking about Poilievre. So naturally we went into BC electoral boundary.
It was organic.
Yeah. But I'd be curious hearing from our rural listeners, viewers. The challenges that fewer ridings would present. And then I think of Lytton, and there is a city that's been burned to the ground and sits in the same state today as it did 8 months ago when it burned. And so very clearly, and it's not, I believe, Jackie Taggart's seat.
It is. It's Jackie Taggart's seat.
Jackie Taggart's worked day and night trying to move heaven and earth to get services going for those folks, resources for those folks, and they're still stuck there in limbo. And that to me is a compelling argument with, like, maybe we need more rural MLAs. Maybe having all these folks in cushy Vancouver and Victoria and Surrey, maybe they are too far out of touch. So I'm generally of two minds of this. So feel free, someone, to convince me one way or the other.
I look forward to the very thoughtful and not at all angry and with no swear words or insults emails that I'm sure to get on this. Even one that doesn't have a swear or an insult will be nice. Thank you.
I don't think. Like, I think it's a genuine. Like, I think
No, it's
folks in the north. We need to understand that, like, you're asking a lot. So we need to make sure that you have the justifications to do so.
Yeah.
Now, on the other hand, economically, you think of Fort St. John, you think of the Montney Shale, and how much wealth that generates for the province in oil and gas, and it's just going to become more important. Kid them out on the other side of this giant riding that could be. LNG Canada is there, like tens of billions of dollars of wealth being generated on both sides of that. Maybe the money, the importance of those industries, maybe they, doesn't mean they should have two MLAs. Like, these are important questions to ask, and I think a lot of folks are wrestling.
You're absolutely right, and I guess we'll see what happens. And let me know what Ellis Ross has to say. He'll be one of the foremost voices on this, if only because of where he is in the province.
Yeah.
Skeena, right? I always confuse Skeena and Stakeen. I'm sure he's Skeena.
Yes, I think Colin is Stakeen.
Yes, I think so.
Pardon me, Minister Colin.
Yes, Stakeen. Minister of Municipal Affairs, Nathan Cullen. Yes. Cabinet has grown by one. We were going to talk about. We're not going to do this.
Wait. Before you go, and I see this morning, I forget where I read, but Jody Osborne is the new Minister of Land Wars, or whatever you're trying to brand it. That includes water, but it doesn't actually include the water thing that everyone's talking about right now.
Is that true? Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Look into
which is kind of funny. So she's, Minister of Water, but not that water.
Some of the water.
Just some of the water.
Jordan, I'm going to be completely honest with you. We talked about three things to talk about, and then when we went off on the Ellis Ross tangent, I quite forgot what the third one was.
We're going to talk about Surrey Board of Trade's call for tax reform and Selena Robinson shooting them down within the first 25 seconds of coming on with them.
Yeah. So the short answer is no, it's not going to happen. You're right. Thank you for reminding me. After provincial budgets, it is traditional for the finance minister to kind of do the rounds of local boards of trade, delivering speeches and taking questions on the state of the budget, what's in it, what's not in it, choices that were made, what she sees, in this case, she sees coming down the pike. And in her presentation to the Surrey Board of Trade, she was asked about a tax review. Not even necessarily tax reform, but just a look at all of the ways that the province is pulling money out of its citizens, because we are in what even the NDP government acknowledges is an affordability crisis, which is only going to get worse this summer as the price of gas reaches new records. We have some pieces coming on that.
No. What are you talking about? Price of gas? John Horgan promised me he was going to make gas more affordable.
He did say that. He did.
Sure, it's $1.85 right now in Langley here, but I'm assuming any day now his master plan is going to kick in.
He always says there's a website you can check, which I never actually have, and I should one of these days. But I got to fill my car up eventually this week, and I'm kind of not looking forward to it. It's getting more expensive. Anyway,
you'll need a second mortgage, so go get your papers in order. It's called gasbuddy.ca. It's a great website. But I'll let you know a secret. John Horgan actually is doing the opposite. He's making it more expensive for gasoline on April 1st. No April Fool's Day joke, folks. Carbon tax goes up again, which will add another cent and a bit to the gasoline price. In fact, it's a little bit more than that because we also pay GST on that cent. So
yes, that's true. You pay tax on a tax, which is the most Canadian thing I've ever heard.
Now, Maclean, you may step back and you'd be like, a tax on a tax? That seems illegal and stupid. And you'd be correct, it is stupid. And precisely the kind of thing that we should have a comprehensive tax review on. Let's look at all these different fees, charges, levies, taxes that the feds, the province, the regional districts, and the municipalities all layer on top of the poor taxpayer. There's only one taxpayer. His name's Maclean K. He lives in Saanich. And let's look at this. Very reasonable request, something that lots of organizations have been asking for a long time, not just Surrey Board of Trade. Taxpayers Federation has been asking for it. We've asked for it. Let's just take a look at all these. Actually, are we actually taxing the things we don't want? And, taxes can also be used to encourage certain behaviors.
You're absolutely right. And apologies if I'm stepping over you because you froze there. And I hope I'm not just talking into the air because you're still frozen. But a tax review does not necessarily mean an overhaul. It just means a look. It's the kind of thing that a government should do every, I don't know, 10, 15 years, just to see, make sure they're not, overcharging some kind of business or this segment of society, or they're not charging a tax on a tax. Those little things are important to review every now and again. And, setting aside the affordability crisis, this is a good thing to do. But as the price of the cost of living gets more and more unaffordable in Canada's least affordable region, can we not at least look? And no, we can't.
No, and we should look. So yeah, I was really surprised at how quickly she dismissed it. Like within 30 seconds of going out with Surrey Board of Trade, she said absolutely not. So
she said it's not on the agenda. Now that doesn't always mean no. I mean, we, as you off the top of the show, we mentioned John Horgan saying absolutely not doing something on with the vodka, and then it just sort of happened a few hours later. This government likes the things that happen to be their ideas, and so
good way of putting it.
Yeah. And so it's possible that it was just like, well, we're not going to take this from you, but it's 6 months down the road, we're announcing a tax review to ensure that affordability. Yeah.
They won't do it. And the reason why is they have too much tied up in it. I mean, we're seeing record revenues right now, shockingly, despite the fact we're still, pulling ourselves out of the pandemic. By the way, we are 2 years and 1 month into the pandemic. And today, 5 rapid tests came home from my kids' school. 25 months. And now I finally am in possession of rapid tests.
I purchased my first rapid tests last weekend. That was the first time I'd ever even seen a rapid test with my own eyes. This is true. Yeah. You know where I got them, Jordan? The pharmacy on Pender Island. Because I've never seen one in Victoria. Not once. I mean this.
You're pillaging Pender Island for your sandwich civilization. Oh my god!
I paid for
poor Pender. When there's bad healthcare outcomes on Pender now, I'll know who to blame.
I didn't even know what to do. Like I saw the tests and was kind of like, I didn't even believe it. Are these actually rapid tests? And I didn't buy them at first. And I walked around to the bakery where my wife was and said, you know what they have in there? They have rapid tests. And she said, well, how many did you buy? Because obviously you bought some, right? You're not an idiot. Yes, I just forgot to bring them out of the store.
Yeah.
And then
all I'm saying is we're distributing these out of school children. Great. Where was this 6 months ago? Where was this 90 days ago when Omicron was just landing?
Well, we know where they were. They were in a warehouse.
Yeah, but it's really hard to get them off the shelf, Maclean.
And they're in the wrong boxes.
The wrong boxes.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I'm grateful to have them, and I'm glad that my parents can get them for free in the pharmacy. That's great. It is. I'm happy about it. I would have been even happier about it 6 months ago.
Yeah. Anyways, I decided to bring that up. So, anyways, on the tax review, it should happen. It won't happen because no government wants to give up any of their tax tools, and especially this particular government, which is predicting deficits in the billions going forward. Even the Business Council of BC is a little bit nervous about it. I did find it funny in the Fin this morning when Von Palmer's like, yeah, BC in great economic shape. Next story, Keith Baldry, despite BC's shaky economic outlook. Which one is it, Maclean? Which one is it?
Apparently, there's some disagreement among the pundit class.
I know.
Yeah, I mean, the BC Business Council is right in that debt is real. It's a real thing. The deficit is a real thing, and just because we had a pandemic, and one could argue that much of that deficit was necessary and good, and I would agree with that. That doesn't mean that you don't have to pay. Eventually, it's like buying a car. Yes, it's extremely expensive and good for you. You've got a car. You still got to pay for it. I probably just offended all of bike Twitter, but they hate me anyway.
Bike people have to buy bikes too, right?
That's true. I am a cyclist, and they still, and it doesn't matter. You ask one question about one bike lane once, and you're one of those.
Yes. Well, it could be worse. You could be Jody.
It's true. Or Andrew Weaver.
Noted anti-cyclist Jody Nash.
Or Andrew, they hate Andrew Weaver. That's a big deal here in Victoria.
Yeah, well, they're not all wrong then, I guess. I don't know. Sorry, Andrew. I just find your flip-flops. I was trying to think of a really big Andrew Weaver word I could use, but this is escaping me. So
I'm not going to help you. I'm just going to let you drown on that.
The Denver Broncos still suck. And so
they do. So until we steal Aaron Rodgers. And we told you we'd get to the sports section eventually. Well, you're. It sounds like you're on your way over to this side of the world and to civilization
Yes.
shortly. So I will let you go.
Yes. Is Monroe's still a bookstore there? Is that still a thing?
It is. Yeah, it's a
Okay.
great
Good.
bookstore.
Good. Good. That's good to know. I don't know what else there is in downtown Victoria anymore. Every time I go, there's like more closed up shops and
Pandemic
that's scary.
and other issues have not been kind to this city. It's too bad.
Yeah. Send me your Saanich tourism options, and I'll take a look.
Absolutely.
But not your Saanich. And by God, don't you send me the Central Saanich.
The very idea, sir.
Oh, awful.
Now that we've offended even more of Vancouver Island, he's Jordan Bateman. I'm Maclean K. Happy politics.